Hi, Dorothy. Hi, Susan. Can you both hear me okay? Could you give me a thumbs up or let me know if the volume is okay? We'll give everybody a minute to come in. I think it's going to be a fun Serger Savvy. Hi from Ohio. Oh, okay, here we go. People are popping in. Hi, Jean. Betsy, hello. JBD. Oh, good. Okay, thanks, Diane. Good. Oh, here we go. Everybody's popping in here. Hi from Seattle. Yay. Thank you. Sherry, Sharon, Rosie, Sue, Cat the Meow. Great. Okay, so I just got back on Sunday from Philadelphia. I did an event on Saturday for their ASG chapter. That was really fun. And it was a lot of traffic coming home though. Wow, everybody's out for summer traveling. Oh, well, JBD 9507, you'll catch the recording on my channel. So whenever your physical therapist shows up, definitely go ahead and do that because you'll be able to catch whatever you don't see live on the recording. And you're certainly welcome to email me any questions. From Dallas, Detroit, let's see, who else do we have? Seattle, Santa Rosa, Vegas. Question, would you serge the selvage off before pre-washing quilting fabric? No, I wouldn't bother because the selvage won't ravel or fray, so you might as well leave it as it is before you wash it. You won't use the selvage when you are actually doing your quilting. Of course, it's a tighter weave and it can kind of skew a little bit, but definitely I would leave it for pre-washing. Oh, Sue, you're doing your first t-shirt tomorrow. Okay, great. Good. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna talk about hi from El Paso. Oh, Quilts of Valor Sewing Day. Oh, that's such an important and it's a wonderful cause. So thank you for doing that. That's fantastic. Yeah, doing the sleeves. As always, oh, hey, Pat from Danbury, one of my neighbors. Hi, Sherry. And you just got to try them. Good for you, Sherry. That's good. Yeah, so I had some suggestions for different things and I went looking and I said, oh, sleeve hemming. And, you know, a lot of people are doing t-shirts and tops, tunics, things with sleeves in them or sleeveless as it's getting hotter. But I thought that would be a good topic to talk about because I remember when I was talking to some people about hemming sleeves and how I like to do it, one of the women was very adamant about doing it the opposite way. And so I thought it would be a good topic to talk about today. But I've got 4 minutes past 12 on the East Coast. So I always like to do my disclaimer. I am a Baby Lock ambassador. I do not work for, Bernina. I was just saying the Triumph and Baby Lock stuck in my head. I am a Bernina ambassador. And, but I do not work for Bernina and I do not receive any commission on sales or anything else. However, if you are in the market for purchasing a new Bernina or Burnett machine or software, before you make the purchase, shoot me an email with your mailing address, and I will put an ambassador appreciation coupon in the mail for you. This is a thank you from Bernina of America corporate. It's not from your dealer. It is from the corporate office, and it's a thank you for purchasing either a machine or software, for supporting them, for watching my videos. So it will save you $100. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks for them to process, and it is a check, not a gift certificate for more merchandise. So it's a great thing to have, and that's good in the United States only, because it is offered by Bernina of America. So that's that. Also, I've had a few people ask me again about the wonderful Trim Bin Plus, and I think I've seen some posts about that too. And that is the Trim Bin Plus. That was created by Barbara Goldcorn in Austin, Texas, and her email is barbara@cuttingedgesergerdesigns.com. I'll put that in. Oh, I'm seeing hello from Texas. Yep. So yes. And yeah, people are saying they like the 892. Yep, the Triumph. But I have had baby lock machines. So if you do have questions about those, and almost any other brand too, I've searched on almost every single one of them. So I'm pretty good at being able to do some troubleshooting for you on a different brand other than Bernina. And I'll be happy to help you no matter what brand you have. So, as I said, to get started today, we're going to be talking about sleeves. One other little announcement I wanted to make is tomorrow I am on my way to Chicago, and on Thursday and Friday I will be at Creative Sewing in Geneva, Illinois for a 2-day event that will be on Thursday and Friday. I'm very excited to go there. I've heard fantastic things about that shop. I'm not sure whether or not they have any openings or not, but you can try Creative Sewing in Geneva, Illinois. Call the store, see if there are any openings if you're in that area. So, oh, Betsy said she got the Trim Bin Plus and it's great, and she said she loves the red. Yes, it does come in a variety of colors. I think it comes in red, white, I think black, and I'm not sure what else. So you can check that out at cuttingedgesergerdesigns.com. So hi from Miami. Oh, I'll bet it's hot down there. So anyway, okay, so talking about sleeves. All right, so this conversation took place a few years ago, as I said, and this is why it is a debate. And I always like to say there are many different ways to get a final result on things, whether it's hemming or any other process that you're working on. And to me, the most important thing is that the final result looks good and is good as far as the construction goes, and that it holds up. If you have a way that you like to do hemming or any other techniques that has worked well for you, you're pleased with the results, by all means, go ahead and use it. Now, when it comes to sleeves, and I put this on because I wanted to show it to you. When I'm cover stitching a sleeve, that's a long sleeve, and so it has a smaller circumference going around the wrist. I like to do the cover stitching prior to stitching the underarm seam on it, simply because even though my machine has a free arm on it, for the circumference that I like and that I'm comfortable with around my wrist, it would stretch it out and it would be bigger than I want, and it may distort the look of the fabric as well. So I like to do the cover stitching while the sleeve is flat. Now, The reason I said that there was some controversy about this whole thing is because one woman said, "Ooh, I hate that little nub of the seam poking out." And let me just go to my other camera to show you what she's talking about. Okay, these are some samples that I'll work on. Let me pull those out of the way. So here is my sleeve. Well, she doesn't like that seam on the inside construction, which is the underarm seam. She doesn't like that to show. But quite honestly, I find that really not a big deal, simply because it is on the inside of my arm. It's not that noticeable. And again, I get a better cover stitch result doing it flat. The other thing that I wanted to say is that before you do your cover stitching, make sure that your the length of your sleeve is even on either edge, because if when you go to do the seam, one edge is a 1/4 inch longer than the other, the stitching lines are not going to match each other, like this right here. So that is important. So I wanted to show you that. But also, I've been rethinking where I put my stay tape. And this is kind of fun. And I have not tested this because I wanted to see how it worked with all of you watching as well. So I'm kind of excited to try this because I have thought about it now and then, but I never really gave it a second thought when I was actually doing a hem, whether it was on a skirt edge or a sleeve or a hem on a tunic. So I'll show you what I'm thinking of. So I've got these 3 samples. Let me put them back in front of the camera and go down there. Okay, so let me hold this one aside. Okay, so I did this one, and these are just little mock-ups. They're just little short pieces of a knit fabric. I think this is a cotton, polyester, and lycra. It's not super lightweight. It's not heavy either. I'd say it kind of falls in the middle. So the first one that I have, I do not have any stay tape on either side of it. And I'm going to do that. And I think it'll probably look okay with this, simply because it has enough substance to the knit itself that I think it's going to look perfectly fine whether it has stay tape or not. However, and then the next one that I'm doing is going to be done with the stay tape in the traditional place that I put it, which is right along the raw edge. So it's actually on, let me put this down, it's on the inside of the hem of the sleeve. Then I thought, that's on the inside, but I'm going to be stitching it from the right side of the sleeve, the outside of it. And then I thought, I wonder if it might be better, let me move these out of the way, to put the stay tape an inch above where the hem is, fold that up, and then when I stitch from the right side, I've got the stability of that stay tape right next to the public side of the fabric. So I think this is going to be kind of a fun test. And if any of you have opinions about anything, or if you've already been very smart and thinking way ahead of me, chime in and let me know what you think of that. Okay, so the first one that we're going to do is the one with no stay tape. You can see I pressed the it's approximately 1 inch hem. I didn't measure precisely, but it's only a sample. So let's give it a go and see how this works out. And again, I don't think I'm going to do the side seams with an overlock. Maybe I will if we have time, but we can talk about that too. But again, when you do these, you want to make sure, this is a very short sleeve, that your edges are going to meet with each other so that when your cover stitching is caught together in the seam, that the lines match each other, that they're not like this. They're not skewed and off the mark with each other. So let's go over to the machine. Before I start though, are there any questions? Does anybody have a burning question about anything before we get going? Somebody's calling me. My sister is. I'll have to call her back. So, all right. I don't see any questions. Let me give people a minute to type though. Okay, I'm going to switch over to the machine. Let me show you my settings first. I am set up for a narrow cover stitch. So I have I'm on stitch 23 on the Bernina L890. So that is with my left and center cover chain stitch needles in. I have all Serger cone thread, and it's kind of a corally pink. I've left all of my tension settings on the default setting. As you know, with the L890, every single stitch is programmed into the machine. And when you click on that stitch, whether it's a 4-thread overlock, a 3-thread rolled hem, a cover stitch, whether it's wide, narrow, triple, it will auto set your tensions, but you can tweak them. Now, typically when I like to do cover stitching, so that it minimizes the chance of getting a skip stitch if I have to stop, I tap the needle down so that, and that works the same way as your sewing machine. If you have, the foot doesn't hover, but when I stop, the needle will stay down in the fabric. I have raised or increased the stitch length to 3.7. The default is 3.5. But I think because this is a fairly hefty knit fabric, I'm going to tap it up to 3.7. I'm going to leave the differential feed as it is, even though I am going in the crosswise direction. But this will be a good test. Without it, you know what? Maybe on this one, let me just go to me for a second. Because I do not have any stay tape that's going to help stabilize this, and it's pretty stretchy going crosswise, I think maybe I will increase my differential feed a couple of ticks just to make sure that I don't get any stretching on this. So let me go back to that screen and show you how I'm doing that. Okay, so my default setting is at 1. On the baby locks, it's on N, which means the front and back feed dogs are working at the same rate of speed. So I'm going to just tap that up to 1.2. It's just a smidge different than the default setting. And you can see how those numbers show up in yellow when they are not in default mode. The top ones that I didn't touch are black numbers. The ones, the stitch length and differential feed, I did change. They show up as yellow. So, and with the increased differential feed setting, that means that my front feed dogs are pushing that fabric in under the needles just a little bit faster than the back feed dogs are feeding it out. And that will help prevent stretching. But let's see if that's enough for this. So I should probably give this a quick measure before I start. I'm just folding it in half. I don't have a long ruler right in front of me. So let me see what this measures, and I'll multiply by 2. It's just a hair under 5. It's about 4 7/8, just a little bit over. So let's see if that's what it ends up with when I go to stitch it. So here is my foot. And if you're wondering how to determine where to stitch, I like to make sure, and this is something I always like to say, we're all evolving as time goes by, and we all learn a little bit um, as we go along. And this is something that I learned a long time ago, and I have stuck with it. Susan is asking, should we cover stitch? Oh, okay. Susan's asking, are you able to adjust differential feed on cover stitch only machines? Yes, you should be able to, because I don't know of any machines that have been made in the last probably 35 years at least that don't have differential feed. And how do you determine what the correct differential feed is on a knit fabric? You always have to test. Susan's asking, yeah, I knew what you meant, Susan. You always want to test it. And again, when you're doing a sleeve edge or the hem of a knit garment, you're probably going in the crosswise direction, which typically is stretchier than the lengthwise. This one has pretty good stretch in both directions. I don't know if it's exactly equal. I didn't test it. But you always want to test it in both directions, because some knits have much more stretch in the crosswise direction and need to increase the differential feed to prevent it from stretching. But in the lengthwise direction, say when you're doing a sleeve or a side seam on the body of the jersey or whatever you're making, you may be able to keep your differential feed on one end and not get any stretching, because that particular knit doesn't have a lot of lengthwise stretch. So I hope that answers your question. Susan's asking, is this knit stay tape? Yes, I'm the first one though that I'm doing has no stay tape in it, and that's why I thought this would be a fun topic. So we're going to do a few different comparisons on stitching and see which one I like best, and I want to hear which ones you like best also, because as I said, this idea of moving where the stay tape is something I have not tested. So you're seeing it first along with me. So let's go back to the presser foot screen. Now, if you're wondering where to put your needles, many years ago when I first started doing cover stitching, I thought it was like really awful if your stitching did not completely encase the raw edge of the hem. And that meant that one needle would be on the single layer of the fabric and one needle would be on the double layer of the hem. However, I have changed my mind about that, simply because you tend to get tunneling on almost all weights of fabric when one needle's on the single layer, one is on the double layer. So now I like to keep both on the double layer. And I'm just looking, and this is my favorite new foot, as you know. And so I have got my left needle and center needle in. So I'm looking at where these indicator lines are in relation to that raw edge of the hem. And I'm going to stay just inside. But the other thing that I'm looking at is, where is the fold of my fabric? Because I'm going to be flipping this over and stitching from the right side, which means I'm kind of stitching blind. I can't see where this fold is, where the raw edge is. So what I have to go by is, where is this fold going to be staying consistently as I stitch? And it's going to be very close to the edge of the bed right here where the metal stops. So that's going to be my visual guide. And I want the fabric to feed straight through from front to back. Now, If you have something that will help you keep that fabric aligned very nicely, then I use these Clover stitch and sticks. I love these. Um, they come out really well with that, because and they have little sticky pads on the underside. There two come per pack. Here's the other one, and you can see I haven't washed it because it's linty. But you can wash these with soap and water, and I've had these for years, and they stay sticky. They're just as sticky now as I when I bought them a bunch of years ago. So I'm going to flip this over. Now remember, this is the one with no stay tape on it. And I probably should have done a test stitch on some scrap fabric, which I didn't do. So let's see how this goes. All right, I'm going to get this under. You want to start with your fabric under the presser, under the needles, not just under your presser foot. I want to get that little fold in. Bring my needles down. And I want to grab my scissors. Okay, put my presser foot down. And I'm going to let the fold of the fabric just ride along my little stitch and stick. I think Clover renamed it something else, but that's the name I've always had. So, and let me just snip these thread tails. Okay. And it doesn't look like I'm getting any stretching at all. So I think that 1.2 was a good differential feed setting. I could chain off, but I'm going to stop right here and again needle down. I'm turning my hand wheel toward me, bringing the needles up to the highest position, grabbing my locking fork, and I'm just picking up the toe of that foot a little bit and grabbing those needle threads, pulling them forward. I'll snip the needle threads. And I pull my fabric out at about 10 o'clock and watch the needle threads go through to the wrong side. And now there's one more thread that's attached, and that's my chain looper thread. And that's what helps or does lock the stitch. So here we are. Let me just trim off these, trim off the thread tails, and we'll take a look at this one under the camera. But I'm pleased with that differential feed setting. I do not see any distortion on the fabric, puckering wise or stretching. If it was puckered, it wouldn't be so bad because you could flatten that out, smooth it out with some steam and your iron. So let's go and take a look at that one. And there's absolutely no tunneling either. So here it is. Look at how pretty that came out. That came out really nice. So there it is. And you can see, even though 3.7 sounds like a long stitch, it looks very nice. I think that slightly longer stitch length for cover stitching is a plus as far as the appearance of it goes. Let's look at it from the other side. So here we are, and you can see that that stitching is very close to the raw edge. It's a little skewed. I probably just didn't cut my fabric perfectly straight, but it's a little bit skewed here and there. But I have said this many times that oftentimes I've looked at very expensive t-shirts that are over $100, sometimes up to almost $200 in expensive stores. And you will see part of the raw edge peeking out. Now, if that really bothered you, you could take some scissors and ever so carefully trim that close, but not into your stitching. Michelle is saying, I'd love you to come to Ann Arbor Sewing Center in Michigan. Well, mention mention my name and we can see what we did. Amber's asking, what thread am I using? I'm just using Maxi Lock Serger cone thread. That's all. So there it is, and it looks really, really good from both sides. And here's what I wanted you to see also. There is absolutely no tunneling whatsoever because both needles are in the double layer of fabric, and that's important. So there's the first one with no stay tape at all. So, and as I said, this is it's not heavy, but it's not a thin knit either. It's beefy. So it did very nicely without that, and I would just give that a press. Let me just show it to you on the face camera. You can see I didn't start right at the very edge over here. I see a couple little puckers, but that's nothing that an iron won't smooth out. No big deal on that. Okay, so that's one. Now, then to finish this, if I were doing both of those sleeves together, I would put the edges together and do just I most of the time use a 3-thread overlock when I'm stitching on knits. I find that that has a little more stretch and give than a 4-thread. Amber saying, does the Maxi Lock create more lint than Serger? If it does, it's not enough that it's ever bothered me. I've never done a side-by-side comparison of them, and I've never had any problems. I do like the Serger, and I have a lot of Serger also. This just happened to be on my machine, and I thought it was a good color for contrast for the cameras to show up. Susan's asking, do I recommend stretch thread when cover stitching with very stretchy knits? I find that with a cover stitch, if you put woolly polyester or woolly nylon in the chain looper, and this is me, if you've gotten a different result, please let me know. But what it does is, because woolly poly and nylon have a lot of stretch and give, that as it's being stretched, because the chain looper thread is going between the two needles, I find that it actually makes it seem a little bit tighter. So I just use Serger cone thread for hemming, and I don't bother with decorative thread in my chain looper at all, simply because it's on the inside of a garment, and I wouldn't waste my more expensive thread on something that's never going to show either. So I just use the Serger cone thread, and let's take, there's stretch and give to that. So but again, somebody just this morning on YouTube had asked me about stretch on a cover stitch. There is some stretch, but it's not a super stretchy stitch, okay? Just so that you know that. So I just basically stick with the Serger cone thread for that. You could also, if you didn't have the right color and you really wanted an exact match and you had it with your regular all-purpose thread that you use in your sewing machine, you could definitely use that as well. So that's fine. But I have stayed away from that. If anyone else has had a different result, let me know, because it could be something where maybe I just didn't bother adjusting the chain looper tension, and maybe if I had loosened it up, it would have given me a stretchier result. So it could be the operator, not the machine. So that said, okay, so the next one that I'm going to do is the one where I have the knit stay tape on the edge, and this is the way I have typically done most of my hemming, 99.9%, if not 100% of my hemming, because I really never thought that much about it. And the stay tape that I'm using is, you've heard me talk about this one before. It's the SSI knit stay tape. This is 1 inch. Most of the time when I do hems on sleeves or on the hem of something, unless I have been very short of fabric, I usually do a 1 inch hem. Sometimes if I cut a sleeve too short, or I want that extra 1/2 inch of length on a tunic or a dress or something like that, I might do a 1/2 inch hem. But this is the 1 inch. And just to show you, if you're not familiar with it, it's very sheer. You can see right through it. It's beautiful, and it's fusible on one side. You would never know it's there as far as creating any thickness or bulk on the finished hem. I just love this stuff, and I use it all the time, particularly on lighter weight knits, things that are definitely a rayon knit that tends to be much less stable. Some silk knits also, even if it's just a cotton knit that's thin and very lightweight, maybe a little bit transparent, that's one that will need that added support of a stay tape. And those are available on my website, but I don't like to do a big commercial for that. So, but you can get it on that. So let's do this one. And this one has the stay tape in the traditional place that I've put it, right along the raw edge. I have pressed up that hem. One other nice thing about having stay tape is, as long as your edges are even, and when you go to press the hem, if you're following the edge of the stay tape, you're going to have a very accurate, consistent 1 inch hem, which is nice. So let's go back to the machine. Okay. And I don't have to bother looking at it from the wrong side first, because this is the exact same width as the previous one. So I do have my knee lift in today. So let me get this under. Start a little closer to the edge. And let's see how this one is. And it's not quite bulky enough that I need to use my hump jumper. I do have it here. For one other thing, but it's flat enough that I think we'll get a good result without using it. And I still left my differential feed on 1.2. I probably could have put it back to 1, but let's just see what happens when I leave it on 1.2 with the stay tape. Okay, bring my needles all the way up to the highest position. Grab the needle threads with the locking fork. And where did I put my scissors? They're over here. Okay, cut these. Pull the fabric out at 10 o'clock. You can see the threads going to the wrong side. That is locking the cover stitch all the way through. And the one thread that's left attached, chain looper, that's what locked it. Let's take a look at this one under the close-up camera. Just want to cut off the thread tail so it looks neat and tidy on both edges. Okay. Get this out of the way. Okay. Very nice. Again, you can see a little bit of that edge peeking out. Would I go back with scissors and trim that off? Probably not. I don't think so. It wouldn't bother me. But if I had been stitching down here and I had a lot above that, definitely, that would bug me. I would go back and trim that off. So there it is. looks really great from the other side. I just love, and this is something, unfortunately, that the camera doesn't pick up really well, but there is a little bit of visual difference between this one with the stay tape and this one without it. And it's very subtle. It is very subtle. Could you get away without it? Yeah. Let me just bring that down so that you can actually see. Stay tape, no stay tape. I don't know. It, again, would your non-sewing friends see any difference at all? No. Your sewing friends probably could pick it up in person. It is sort of a subtle thing to see on the camera, but it is a really nice difference. So there's that. Again, I would go, and you can see that when I put those sleeve edges together, that those stitching lines are going to match perfectly. Okay? And so are the edges of the sleeve. So it's going to look really good. Okay, so that's that one. Let me just go over to the questions. Have I used a cotton thread such as Aurifil? I have used cotton threads, but most of the time I'm using a polyester Serger thread. It stands up well to laundering, and it's strong. So, and a lot of times things like a jersey, that type of thing, most of the time I do throw it in the laundry after I've worn it just once. Oh, Sue says the hem looks crisper with the stay tape. It does. And because, this is the, it's such an interesting thing, because as you can see, let me go back to the close-up camera. You can see how sheer this is. You can see, oh, and there's my little blood blister that I got last night. I was setting up the cameras for this today, and the camera that's on my presser foot is on a bracket that's spring-loaded, and I caught my finger in it, and it hurt, I'll tell you that. So I'm doing that all for you guys. But anyway, I said, it is kind of interesting that something so sheer and lightweight can make a very beautiful difference on the fabric. And you can see it just on the inside of that one. And here it is. It does have a crisper look. And I also think that if you're working on a fabric that, say, is 100% cotton, say you're working on a 100% cotton t-shirt, that doesn't have any lycra, that fabric is more likely with laundering and wear to kind of stretch out of shape and not look perfect after it's been worn and laundered multiple times. But with the stay tape, it will keep those edges of the hems on the bottom edge and sleeves looking really good. It will also keep your necklines looking really nice as well. So that is another added plus. Okay, so that's two. So now we've done the one without any stay tape, the one with the stay tape in the traditional place that I usually put it. Next up, and this I can't wait to see whether it makes a difference or not. Okay, let me just show you this one more time. This is with the stay tape an inch above the raw edge, and I've pressed the hem. So this time when I stitch from the right side, the stay tape is against that right side. So I'm going to be curious to see if it makes any significant difference, or whether it's dealer's choice and you can do it either way, and it looks, I'm sure it'll look fine, but I just want to see if there's any subtle difference in getting the stay tape on the side that isn't against the feed dogs. Because typically when you're sewing on your sewing machine or your serger, when you're putting multiple layers together, it's just one of the principles that you usually always put the less stable side against the feed dogs. So that's what we're doing with this. So let's give this a test and see what happens. Let me switch over to the presser foot. Okay. Let's get my thread tails out of the way here. Okay. And get this underneath. It's always a little bit hard for me to, I think I bumped this. Let me just move this a little bit. There we go. Give it a little bit of a finger press to keep it down. Okay, so let's see this one. I think I'm going to bring my differential feed back to, I'm going to bring that back to 1 just for the heck of it and see what happens. All I have to do is tap it. And if you're wondering what the little video camera icons are, if you don't have this machine, those will show you exactly what each button will do. It's a little built-in video camera that will show you that I've tested the differential feed. There it is on 0.7. It's stretching the fabric because it slowed down the front feed dogs. Now it's going up to 1. It'll keep it flat. Then I think it goes up to 2. Oh, it goes up to 1.5. And then so that gathers it a little bit, and then it's going to go up to 2. And I would say almost 100% of machines, differential feed setting max is 2. So, and that will gather it more. So just to show you what that does if you're not familiar. So now my differential feed is back to 1 or N on some machines. And I've got that stay tape on the top edge of my fabric. Oh, and I guess it would be nice if you could see what I was doing. Okay, good. Oh, I like these colors together too. Very summery. Okay, here we go. Okay, bring my needles up, grab my locking fork. Where did I put my scissors? Cut the threads, pull out at 10 o'clock. I pulled them through. Okay, now, you know what? Again, very subtle, but you know what? I think I really, really like this one. Okay, so let me get under that, put it under the close-up camera. You know what? I think this is going to be the new way that I do it. Look at that. Not the least bit of puckering or anything else. Let me even it out here. It's beautiful. I think this is going to be my new way to use the stay tape, and maybe I should do a whole Serger tip clip on that. So the stay tape was against the top edge. Let me just cut off these threads too. I do like to look like a neat and tidy sewer. Not my room, just my projects. I wish my room looked as neat and tidy as some of these things do, but unfortunately, most of the time it doesn't. Okay, so this is this. Let's look at the underside. And you can see, again, a teeny bit of the raw edge peeking out. Would I go back and cut this off? No, I doubt it. Because I really, you have to kind of balance that out. And, you know, some of the things, in fact, when I was in Philadelphia, I forget what it was that one of the women was looking at on her, we were doing the Elena tote bag pattern. And she was saying, oh, you know, oh, I know, it was the zipper on the inside lining. And she was upset because there's this teeny, teeny, tiny little pucker on that fabric. And I say, you know what? It's on the inside of the bag. After the whole thing is put together, excuse me, and pressed, and you use it once, it's never even going to cross your mind again. So give it a rest as far as getting worried. And the same thing with this. So maybe I might trim that a little bit, but I seriously doubt it, simply because I wouldn't want to run the risk of cutting the stitching itself and then having to redo the whole thing. Because with cover chain stitching, you know that unlike doing something like a seam with overlock stitching, if something went askew on the inside, you could go back and just fix it with an overlock stitch because it's not going to show. But with cover stitching, when it is going to show on the outside, there's really no good way to fix a little break in the threads partway through a stitching line without it showing and not looking good. So I would rather just live with that 1/8 of an inch peeking out on the wrong side that nobody else is going to see than take a chance and break the stitching and have to redo it again. So this, I'm really liking this a lot. It's very smooth, it's very flat, and you know I have not gone to the iron. This has not been pressed, and it looks that good. So I think, honestly, that this is going to be my new way of doing the stay tape. And as I said, I think I may do a tip clip on that. Now, we've got a few more minutes left. So that's that. Let me just show it to you up here. I'm very proud of this. I'm so glad we did this together. Look at that. Smooth as can be, and it has not been touched with the iron. Okay, I just started in a little bit from the beginning edge. And even that, would I go crazy about it? No. Well, I would always start right at the edge on an actual garment. These are just little samples. But when I put that together and did a seam, that little missing part of the stitch would be caught in the seam allowance. Let me just show you that. That would just be caught in there, and no big deal at all on that. And let's see. And you can see they're a perfect match. I'm pulling on the fabric. I shouldn't be doing that. Okay, so there it is. A perfect match. All right, so that's really interesting. Oh, can I show a comparison with both stay tapes? Absolutely. Okay, yeah, great. Thank you for asking. Okay, so here's the one that I just did. Stay tape is 1 inch above the raw edge. And let me just make sure I'm grabbing. Okay, and here is the one that it is on the underside of the hem. And honestly, again, it's very subtle, but I like this one better. So it's up to you which one you like. Let's take a look. Yeah, you can see it's a little bit flatter, smoother with it 1 inch above. And if you were doing a 1/2 inch hem, I think I don't carry the 1/2 inch wide SSI knit stay tape, but maybe I will order some. If you like a 1/2 inch hem, just let me know. But as I say, I typically use the 1 inch, and it comes in black as well, which is, it's still in the package, but you can see I've gone through so much of this stuff over time. It comes in black or white, and I use obviously the white, but I will say on something that is this thickness on a knit, if I had used the black, it would not have made 1 iota of difference. It would not have shown through at all. So here's the, I guess I gotta put the camera on it. Here's the one where the knit stay tape is in the traditional spot, right against the raw edge. Here is the one 1 inch above. I honestly think this is the winner. And here is the one with no stay tape. Now, let me get this out of the way for a second. Let me move these down just a smidge. Make sure you can see. Here's the one with no stay tape. Now, you can see just a tiny bit of puckering, but that would come out honestly with a light press. No problem there. You could live with that. But I definitely think this is number one on my hit parade. Do any of you have an opinion about it? Just let me know. But I think that's going to be my new way of doing that. Now, this is what I was talking about with people who, if they really have a thing about seeing the tiny bit of that seam allowance against the raw edge, it's on the underside of my sleeve. And again, that's the way I do all of mine. I'd rather have the cover stitching look good going around. That's much more noticeable. But if you didn't, and you couldn't live with that, and it was going to keep you awake at night, I'm going to move these out of the way. Let me just show you how you would do the exact same process for doing the cover stitching in the round that you do on any other hem. And I've got those videos in my YouTube channel. Let me go back to this again. Okay, so here it is. I did a 3-thread stitch. This would be my underarm seam. This, I left the stay tape 1 inch above. And let me just show you how I prepped it. And this is what you've seen on perfect cover stitching in the round, where I make a clip right at the memory crease on the fabric, and then I flip the seam allowance to the opposite side to cut down the bulk on that. Otherwise, if I had them both up, I'd be stitching through 6 layers and a big lump underneath it. And then the last thing that I like to do is I cut a wedge out of the edge that is going to get the hemming. And I don't cut through my needle thread. You can see it's still there because that's going to open up the seam. You don't want to do that. And so when I flip this up, I have minimized the bulk considerably on this. But even though my machine does have a free arm on it, this is considerably smaller in circumference than when I take the free arm and use that. The time that I would definitely use the free arm for hemming is on a short sleeve t-shirt or a man's t-shirt. But even for women, you've got enough circumference on those that could go around the free arm on the machine if you have that, and not stretch it out of position. But I wanted to show you also if and when I were doing this just like this, and I've got that side seam all pressed, I like to stitch inside the circle. So let me just show you what I'm talking about when I say that. So, and I never start or stop on the seam either. But this is why I do not like to do this. I'm not going to do this. Well, maybe I'll do the stitching. Let's see. Okay, so let's get this under. And I do not have a lot of wiggle room on this. You're just working with such a small circumference that it's very easy to wiggle the fabric out of position easily rather than keeping it right against the guide. So that is why I don't like to do that. But I am stitching inside the circle, which means I leave the sleeve turned inside out. Now, I mentioned having a bonus round also for today. Kim is asking, can you stitch that little bit down to keep it in place? I think, is this what you're talking about, Kim? This little, when I flip-flop the seam allowance? so that it stays put. Yes. And another little thing that you can do is you can, and I did actually give this a press, but it was a quick press. But also, you could always take a piece of wash away wonder tape, just a little tiny piece, stick it under here and make that stick to it because it's double-sided stick. And that will hold that in place so that it doesn't flip to the other side while you're stitching. And if it's left free like this, you do run that risk. So I'm glad you asked that. Yes. So, okay. Now, what if you want to make garments, but you don't own a cover stitch capable machine? Well, one alternative is you could go buy one. You could buy a combo machine or a cover stitch, a dedicated cover stitch machine. Or if that's not quite in your budget at the moment, one other way to do this is to do kind of a band for the sleeve. And it basically is the same thing as when you attach ribbing to a cuff or the bottom edge of a jersey, anything like that. And I just grabbed this knit. It's like a sweater knit out of my stash. I don't even remember when I bought it, a zillion years ago. And for this, and this is very stretchy. I would say this is probably, I want to say like probably polyester and a lycra or elastane sweater knit. So I'm going to switch my machine over to an overlock stitch and just show you how to do this. You can do this on, as I said, it's the same principle as using ribbing for cuffs. The bottom of a top, like a sweatshirt or jersey, or even on leggings. You could do this around the ankle of that as well and get a really nice look and not have to have a cover stitch machine. So I'm going to switch my machine over. I'm going to take my little trim bin plus off for a second. There it is. Love this thing. I can throw my clips in here. You'll see me do this. And then my threads will go in here as my little pieces of fabric will too. But I won't end up throwing away clips. So let me put this off to the side for a second. And I think I have my wrong hump jumper. I have the one for cover stitch. I'm just going to grab the one for overlock. Hang on just a second. Okay, get that one. So I'm just going to convert the machine over. It's super fast. Put my knife guard on. And I've got my little seam guide for that one too. I'm going to have to move my needles from cover stitch position into overlock. I think I'll just use one needle because I like those 3 threads for knits. The 3 thread is plenty strong enough, and it does have a tiny bit more stretch than a 4 thread overlock. I'm going to put that in my left needle. I'm working without my machine light on and around the camera, so I can't tell for sure if that's all the way up. I think it is. We'll find out if it doesn't stitch correctly, right? Actually, let me put my, I'm going to put my light on just so I can see. Yeah, that looks like it's all the way up. Okay, good. And let me cut that second thread, and I've just got to move that. And whenever I'm not using a thread, I don't like to leave that thread tail waving in the wind. You hear me say that in the Serger Essentials class. I'm going to stick with the corally pink color, which is not great against the red, but it'll save time. So let me get rid of this thread. I'm keeping you a few extra minutes, but I think this is worth it. So again, even if you do have a cover stitch machine, this is a fun finish to use. Also, I didn't mention it before, this is a fun little thing that if, say, you were kind of short of fabric and you couldn't cut your sleeves as long as you want them, or the hem length is, you know, the body of your jersey or top or tunic is shorter than you want. If you have a narrow piece that's wide enough, you can cut that band, double it over, and that will add that length. And let me just get my needle threaded up here, and I think we'll be good. Oh, and I've got to change. Wait a minute, I've got to change my my loopers. I'm no longer in cover stitch mode. So let me, I should have kept the other one on the machine, but I'll put it right back. Let me bring my chain looper up, and I think I just loosened the ankle on this machine. That's interesting. Let me just tighten that up. That's something new. Not sure if that's gonna do it or not. Well, I'll find out. I do not have the right screwdriver in here for this, unfortunately. Oh, maybe this will do it. I doubt it. No, too narrow. Let's try it and see if it works all right. And if it does, it does. And if it doesn't, I'll follow up on another one. But let me get my threads into the correct loopers here. I've never had that happen before. Okay, so we've got our, I think we're all set to go. Nope, that didn't go through. Let me just bring that upper looper up. Okay. I'm sure I'm not the only person who talks to myself when I'm doing this kind of stuff. There we go. Okay, good. I think we're ready to roll. I took off the C28 foot. I didn't mention that before. I did have the C28 foot. That is for cover chain stitch mode only. So now I am going to do this, and I'm going to show you on the close-up camera exactly what my setup is going to be with this. Okay, so let me go over here. I'm going to move all these other samples aside, and I just want to show you very quickly. Okay, so this big piece right down here is my pretend sleeve. Here is my band, and they're both red. They're the same fabric. I cut this band 5.5 inches, thinking that I want about a 2.5-inch cuff, so when I trim away some of the fabric, it's going to come out to just about 2.5. Here are my raw edges. I've got my clips in. Very unstable. I did not put any stay tape on this, so I am going to increase my differential feed definitely on this, because I think without increasing it, it's going to stretch it out. So let me go to my, soon goes the joys of live streaming. Yes, it is. That has never happened to me before with the ankle. I probably bumped something last night when I was getting set up, and I never noticed it and went on my merry way. So hopefully it will stitch all right, and then I'll tighten it up after I'm off camera. I don't want to take up everybody's time by going and looking for the right screwdriver on this. I just want to make sure this thread, everything is back here. Okay, so anyway, all right, I'm going to put my differential feed for this. I'm going to bring it up to 1.5, I think, because it is pretty stretchy. And that means my front feed dogs are working 50% faster than the back feed dogs. Okay, so, and I'm going to bring my knife up. I have my stitch width. Typically on knits, I like about 1/4 inch for a seam allowance. So I've got my cutting and stitch width dial on 6.0. I'm going to put my Trim Bin Plus back on. Throw my first clip in here. Get this under. I think I will use my little hump jumper because I'm going over 3 layers of this sweater knit. I want to trim off a little bit too. So I'm going to get that right in here. And my stitch, oh, let me change my stitch to stitch number, I'm going to change to stitch number 3, which is a 3 thread. Let me just show you that on the screen just so you see that. So it's my left needle, and I'm going to leave my needle up because I'm back in overlock position. I'm leaving all my tensions on the default. When I changed that, it took out my differential feed. And I'm going to bring my stitch length up, I think, to 3 because I'm going through 3 layers of sweater knit. Okay, so let's give this a test run and see what happens. Let me make sure, yeah, that's okay. Whoops. Do you ever remember me talking about how the hump jumper can snap off and bounce when you're stitching along and kind of startle you? That's what I meant. Okay. Oh, you know what? Let me go back. I forgot to change my camera. Okay, here we go. So I'm stitching along. I've got my little band on top. Trimming off probably about a scant 1/4 inch. And I'm also being very careful not to pull or stretch on this. Okay, so let's take a look at this under the close-up camera. I think you will like it. It's a really easy finish, a super easy finish, and it looks nice too. You're not sacrificing looks. Okay, so here it is all stitched. Here it is, and again, I haven't pressed it. I would press the seam allowance toward the sleeve, away toward the single layer, but you get a very nice finished edge on that, and you can add length without sacrificing the look of it either. So you've got the double layer of the sleeve. Here it is on the inside. Nice and neat and tidy on the inside. I would press this up to finish. Would I top stitch it? I don't think so. It might reduce the stretchiness of it if you've got a close fit on that. But I think having the differential feet at 1.5 was the right setting for that. So those give you a few little options. And oh, Sherry Sherry says you get better answers talking with yourself. Yes. Somebody was saying to me that for people who own their own business, that when you're talking to yourself and somebody asks you who you're talking to, you can say you're having a staff meeting with yourself. So anyway, all right. So that gives us 3 different hemming options on it. I saw the winner being the one where I had the stabilizer an inch above the raw edge right there. I love, and I have used this on multiple garments. Another thing with this band finish is if you wanted to build in some contrast and you had a similar fabric that was a different color, that would also be very pretty on sleeves as well as the bottom edge of a top or tunic or whatever you're making. So anyway, somebody's saying LOL, I love it. Yeah, it's true. So that gives you some options, and I'm so glad I tested out that stay tape experiment with you. And please feel free to send me your suggestions for upcoming live streams. I will be home for the majority of the summer, starting after my trip to Chicago. I have some Zoom things going on. I will probably schedule a Zoom class too. I haven't got that on my calendar yet, but I will be around because my husband wants to get his second knee replaced. He did really great with the first one, so yay for that. So he's anxious to get the second one done, and then he'll have 2 bright and shiny knees, so that'll be good. The second that I would come, I would love to have you come to Ann Arbor. Oh, okay. That was another person saying she's second's coming. All right, well, mention it to your dealer, and if we can make it work, we can make it work. So, but thank you for joining me today. Again, if you are thinking about buying a new Bernina or Burnett machine or software, before you make the purchase, send for the ambassador coupon. That will save you $100. So, and if you have any questions and suggestions, please email me with them. I don't always go back to look at the chat after I finish a live stream. So it's gail@gailpatrice.com for my email address. And I really, really, really do appreciate getting suggestions because I want to show you what you want to learn about. And this was a suggestion from somebody. So, and I just threw in a few more to go along. But I hope you all have a wonderful June. For any of you who are celebrating Father's Day with husbands, dads, brothers, children, enjoy, have a wonderful celebration, and I will see you for Serger Savvy Live in July, the second Tuesday, and tell your friends about it, and I hope you're all subscribed to my YouTube channel. Thanks very much, and have a great day.